as we were looking at Numbers chapter 13, verses 21, verses 27 and 28. It says, and they told him and said, we came unto the land whither thou sentest us, and surely it floweth with milk and honey, and this is the fruit thereof. Verse 28 says, nevertheless, the people be strong that dwell in the land, and the cities are walled and very great. Moreover, we saw the children of Anak there. Still continuing, talking from the subject, going to get what God has given you. Going to get what God has given you. Understand that if you're going to get what God has given you, there will be opposition. But we can't allow what we see to change what God has said. Point number one, if you're going to get what God has given you, what God has purposed for your life, whether it be happiness, peace of mind, whether it be some form of prosperity, peace, and peace, the word peace, when you search it out, it actually means prosperity, wholeness and soundness, well-being and happiness, some type of wealth or success in every area of your life. If we're going to get what has been given, we want you to also understand that we can't allow what we see to change what God has said. If God says he's for you and he's more than the world against you, then I've got to keep that word that he said before my eyes, that I don't allow what I see to change what God has said. If I allow what I see to change what God has said, I begin to say something different. And we know in the book of Mark, it teaches us in Mark 11, 23 and 24, that we'll have what we say. Whosoever shall say unto this mountain, be thou removed and uplifted and cast into the sea, and shall not doubt in his heart, but shall believe that those things that he saith, whatever you say. So I must make sure that what I say is in line with what God has said. His written word or his spoken word. If I'm going to get what God has given, I must line up with what he has already said and not allow what I see, situations and circumstances, to change what God has said. Praise God. Second thing we want to talk about also, if you start saying what you see naturally, you are positioning yourself for prepared failure instead of prepared success. If you start saying what you see in the natural, well, I don't think I have enough money. Well, the doctor said that I only have a few days to live, or everyone that has this disease, they die from this, or you ought to start planning for your funeral. If you allow the things that you see naturally, and you allow that to become a part of your conversation, remember we always talk about Proverbs 18 and 21 that says that death and life is in the power of the tongue. We talk about that principle so much that our faith is in what we say, that we believe, and therefore we speak. That's the spirit of faith. I can't start saying what I see, because if I do, then I start positioning myself for prepared failure instead of prepared success. I want you to understand that whatever you think about and whatever you talk about, you begin to gravitate towards that thing. If you begin to talk about it enough, you begin to go after it. And sometimes you do it subconsciously. You just begin to gravitate towards it. If you talk about negative stuff long enough, you begin to create the thing that you speak of. You will find yourself connecting yourself to those type of people and just drawn to that negative situation. Even fear is one of the things that draws people to that situation that you fear. I remember in the book of Job, what Job talked about, he said the thing that I feared the most has come up on me. I remember it was kind of funny. Years ago, being a young boy, actually in high school, and went over to a friend's house playing basketball with them, and he had a pit bull, and he had to put it up, because a lot of us young people out there playing basketball that day, and he went and put it up on the porch, and said, no, just sit here, and he's gonna stay here. But I was terrified of that dog. I mean, he was maybe 50 yards away from me, 100 yards away from me, but and wasn't growling or barking, but I was just afraid, man, that pit bull is gonna bite me. He's gonna bite me, and that fear in me, I'll never forget it. That dog, after a period of time, jumped off of the porch and made a beeline for me. I mean, came at me, wasn't barking. I mean, just wide open, straight towards me out of all of those people that were there, that were out there playing. I mean, he ran through the basketball crowd and ran straight to where I was sitting. I mean, and the owner had to grab. I mean, he grabbed him in the nick of time. I mean, he was coming at me about to try to devour me. And I say that to say my fear drew that situation to me. I was afraid that the dog was going to bite me. I was afraid that that type of dog was going to get me. And my fears connected me to the things that I was afraid of. Oh, please hear me today. That my fear connected me to the thing that I was afraid of. Just as Job gave us the example, that the thing that I feared has come up on me. But I want to say that the positive of that is the thing that I believe God for, my faith. Oh, please understand that fear is simply your faith working in the negative. The thing that you don't want to happen, you have more faith in it than you do in the good of God happening in your life. So my faith is intended to draw me to the things that God has ordained for us. We want to say this once again. If you start saying what you see in the natural, the negative things, the oppression, the possibilities of failure, the possibilities of death, premature death, dying before your time, that it just can't work out for you, that you can't get better. There's no way I can come out of this. People that come from where I come from, people that know what I know, that have the level of education that I have, they don't succeed very well. People of my color, of my ethnicity, of my culture, they don't do very well. It's already marked out against us. The man is against me. The man is against me. We'll say the man is against me. All kinds of things. If your thinking is like that, you're setting yourself up for failure. And you're missing the prepared success that God would have for you. Also, we want you to understand this today. Talking about going to get what has been given to you. Remember your victory. Victory is yours simply because God said it. God had told the children of Israel that I've given you the land that flows with milk and honey. I've given it to you. So remember that victory is yours because God has said it. But you can only experience that victory and possess it if you stay and stand and take it. If you stay in the faith, keep your confession, your words in line with what God has said. That's the only way you can get the victory that belongs to you. It's not enough that God has said that I've given you the land, but you must say the land is mine. If God has given it to me, then the land is mine. If God says by his stripes I'm healed, then you must begin to declare that healing is mine. And because it's mine, I begin to speak to the sickness. I begin to speak to the pain. I command you to leave this body because you're trespassing on God's property. Because God has said that by his stripes I'm healed, that he has sent his word and healed me of my diseases. So with my mouth, I declare what God has given to me. So then victory is yours simply because God said it, but you can't possess it or experience it until you agree with God. I know we say that God can do anything. He's in control. Well, I want to suggest this to you, maybe ask you this question. If that is really true, that God can do whatever he wants to do, he's sovereign, and we can't help God with anything. He doesn't need our help. Well, let me ask you this question. Why would God ask us and teach us to pray? Yeah. Think about that now. If we can't change God's mind or cause his favor or cause things to work out according to his will, if we have no part to play in that, why would I pray? Why would God? Jesus said, I wish that men would pray and not faint. Paul in Ephesians talks about that. Pray without ceasing. Pray without ceasing. In Thessalonians, pray without ceasing. Just over and over again, pray. How he was praying for us. If we can't change or have anything to do with what God wants to happen in our lives, why should I pray then? It's going to happen how he wants it to happen anyway. Why should I pray? Think about that. So we have a part to play in what God has given us. God has did this. I think, matter of fact, let me help you with this. In 1 Corinthians, I think it's chapter 3. It talks about that we're co-laborers. We're workers together with God. That we're his handiwork, but we're co-laborers working together with God. So if you're going to get what God has given you, you must play a part. And that one of the main parts in getting what God has given you is that I must maintain my saying or my confession of what God has promised me. I must not allow my situations to change what God has said. If I change what God has said by saying something differently, I'm aligning myself up for that harvest of that thing. Remember, Job said, the thing that I feared the most has come up on me. So I don't want to fear the most, but I want to faith the most. I want to be persuaded the most that what God has given me, that if God said it, that it's for me. And because I believe it, I'm going to say it. I'm going to operate in the spirit of faith. Going to get what God has given to you. I have a part to play in it. You